What if the people stealing your future are not your enemies, but the ones you keep giving your attention to? Every pointless argument, every unnecessary explanation, and every person who brings noise but no value is quietly taking time you will never get back. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming wise enough to know who deserves your energy and strong enough to skip the rest. 1. Stop giving your attention to people who add nothing to your life. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you own, yet most people give it away as if it costs nothing. They spend hours thinking about people who disrespect them, replying to messages that lead nowhere, listening to gossip that changes nothing, and explaining themselves to people who have already decided not to understand. Every minute you give to the wrong person is a minute taken away from your growth, your peace, and your future. Some people enter your life with no intention of helping you become better. They only want access to your energy. They bring drama, confusion, complaints, and unnecessary problems, then leave you mentally exhausted while they continue their day as if nothing happened. You must learn that attention is not kindness. Constant availability is not loyalty. You are not required to respond to everyone who calls your name. Before giving someone your time, ask yourself, do they bring wisdom, peace, support, or progress into my life? If the answer is no, step back without guilt. You do not need to hate them or fight them. Simply stop feeding what is distracting you. Your life will begin to change when you stop giving important energy to unimportant people. Protect your attention, because whatever receives it will eventually control the direction of your life. 2. Silence is the most powerful answer to people seeking a reaction. Some people do not speak to understand you. They speak to provoke you. They criticize your choices, twist your words, question your character, and push your emotional buttons because your reaction gives them power. The moment you become angry, send a long message, or begin defending yourself, they have already pulled you away from your peace. This is why silence is not weakness. Silence is control. It shows that another person cannot command your emotions simply by saying the right words. You do not have to answer every accusation, correct every false opinion, or prove your worth to people who enjoy seeing you disturbed. Sometimes the strongest response is to remain calm and continue with your life. At first, silence may feel uncomfortable because your mind will tell you to explain yourself. But every time you refuse to react, you train yourself to become emotionally stronger. People who seek attention through conflict often lose interest when they receive nothing in return. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them create stories that have no effect on your direction. Your peace is too valuable to sacrifice for a temporary argument. When you stop reacting to every provocation, you stop allowing difficult people to control your mood, your focus, and your day. 3. Never explain yourself to people determined to misunderstand you. There is a painful difference between someone who does not understand you and someone who has already decided not to understand you. The first person listens, asks questions, and tries to see your side. The second person twists every answer, ignores your intentions, and uses your words against you. No matter how carefully you explain yourself, they keep finding another reason to judge you. This is where many people waste their time. They repeat the same truth in different ways, hoping one perfect explanation will finally change a closed mind. But people do not always misunderstand because you explained poorly. Sometimes they misunderstand because the false version of you serves their purpose. Stop standing in the courtroom of someone else's opinion, defending decisions they will never have to live with. You know why you made your choice. You know what you survived, what you learned, and what your peace requires. Let your character speak through consistent actions instead of endless explanations. Those who truly value you will seek clarity, while those committed to judging you will reject every answer. Allow them to be wrong. Their opinion cannot destroy your future unless you abandon your direction trying to correct it. Save your voice for people who listen, your truth for people who respect it, and your energy for a life that deserves to move forward. 4. Remove access from anyone who brings drama into your peace. Not everyone who enters your life deserves permanent access to you. Some people arrive with warmth, support, honesty, and calm. Others arrive carrying confusion, gossip, conflict, jealousy, and emotional pressure. They may call themselves friends, relatives, partners, or supporters, but their presence keeps leaving the same result. Your mind becomes restless, your energy drops, and your peace disappears. You begin replaying conversations long after they end. You question yourself, lose focus on your work, and carry problems that were never yours to solve. This is how drama steals from you. It rarely takes your future in one dramatic moment. It steals it slowly, through repeated interruptions, unnecessary arguments, and emotional situations that keep your attention trapped. You must learn to judge people by the effect they repeatedly have on your life, not only by the role they claim to hold. A person can say they care about you and still disturb your peace every time they appear. They can apologize beautifully and still repeat the same behavior. They can promise change and return with the same chaos. Words may sound convincing, but patterns tell the truth. If every conversation becomes an argument, every private detail becomes public gossip, and every peaceful moment becomes another crisis, you are not dealing with bad luck. You are dealing with a pattern that will continue for as long as you allow it. Removing access does not always require a dramatic confrontation. You do not need to announce that you are leaving, write a long speech, or prove that the other person is wrong. Sometimes protection begins quietly. You answer less often. You stop sharing personal information. You refuse to discuss other people. You leave conversations that become disrespectful. You stop running to solve emergencies created by repeated carelessness. You become less available to anything that has already shown you it does not respect your time. Distance can be created without hatred. Boundaries can be established without revenge. The goal is not to punish anyone. The goal is to stop punishing yourself. Many people struggle with this because they confuse access with love. They believe that caring about someone means always answering, always listening, and always being available. But love without limits can turn into self-neglect. You can care about someone and still refuse to let their instability control your life. You can wish them well without standing inside every storm they create. You can forgive them without giving them the same position they used to hurt you. Forgiveness may release anger, but it does not automatically restore access. Trust must be rebuilt through consistent behavior, not demanded through emotional pressure. People who are used to unlimited access may become angry when you create boundaries. They may call you selfish, distant, proud, or changed. Do not let those words frighten you. Of course you have changed. You have learned that peace is not something you find by accident. It is something you protect through difficult decisions. The people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will often be the first to criticize them. They were comfortable when you answered every call, absorbed every complaint, and accepted every disrespectful action. Your growth changes that arrangement, so resistance is natural. Their discomfort does not mean your boundary is wrong. Pay attention to how your body and mind respond after spending time with someone. Do you feel understood or drained? Do you feel encouraged or ashamed? Do you leave with clarity or confusion? Do they respect your limits? Or do they treat every boundary as a personal attack? Healthy relationships may include disagreement, but they do not require you to constantly recover from the other person's presence. You should not need hours of silence to heal from every conversation. You should not fear checking your phone because you expect another problem. You should not sacrifice sleep, focus, and emotional stability just to prove that you are loyal. There are people who bring drama because they have never learned to live without it. Peace feels unfamiliar to them, so they unconsciously create conflict wherever they go. When nothing is wrong, they search for something to criticize. When relationships become calm, they reopen old wounds. When attention moves away from them, they create a crisis to bring it back. You cannot heal this pattern by giving them more of yourself. Your patience will not become a substitute for their responsibility. Your kindness will not change someone who refuses to examine their behavior. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop participating in the cycle. You must also stop becoming the messenger, judge, and rescuer in situations that do not belong to you. Drama often survives because it keeps finding people willing to carry it. Someone tells you what another person said, then asks you to respond. Someone creates a problem, then expects you to repair the damage. Someone refuses to make a decision, then blames you for the outcome. The moment you accept these roles, their chaos becomes your daily responsibility. Step out. Refuse to carry stories between people. Refuse to solve problems that require someone else to grow. Refuse to become emotionally involved in every conflict placed before you. Protecting your peace may sometimes require you to leave relationships you once believed would last forever. This can be painful, especially when there are years of memories, shared experiences, and emotional attachment. But history is not a lifetime contract. The fact that someone was important to your past does not mean they should control your future. Some relationships complete their purpose and then become harmful because one person refuses to grow. Holding on, only because of time already spent, can cost you even more time. Memories deserve gratitude, but they should not become chains. Ask yourself an honest question. What has this person's access been costing me? Has it cost you confidence, sleep, opportunities, focus, or self-respect? Have you delayed important goals because you were constantly managing their emotions? Have you become afraid to speak honestly because every truth creates another argument? Have you started becoming a smaller version of yourself just to keep the relationship calm? If access to you requires the destruction of your peace, the price is too high. Your peace is not an empty space where nothing happens. It is the foundation from which everything meaningful grows. You make better decisions when your mind is calm. You work more effectively when your emotions are stable. You recognize opportunities when your attention is not trapped inside unnecessary conflict. Protecting your peace protects your future. This is why removing access is not cruelty, it is wisdom. You do not need everyone to understand your decision. You need the courage to respect what your life is teaching you. When the same person repeatedly brings the same disturbance, believe the pattern. Stop waiting for one final disaster before you take your peace seriously. You have already seen enough. You do not have to keep reopening the door to prove that your heart is good. Close it calmly. Step back without hatred. Let distance reveal what constant access was hiding. The right people will not need to destroy your peace to remain close to you. They will respect your time, your limits, and your growth. Everyone else must learn that access to your life is a privilege, not a permanent right. 5. Do not argue with people who are addicted to chaos. Is not information. Some people do not enter a conversation looking for truth. They enter looking for tension. They do not want understanding, resolution, or peace. They want emotional movement. They want raised voices, long messages, confusion, defensiveness, and the satisfaction of knowing they disturbed someone who was calm before they arrived. This is why arguing with them feels so exhausting. You think the disagreement is about facts, but for them, it is about control. You are trying to solve the issue while they are trying to keep the issue alive. The longer you explain, the more material they receive. The more emotional you become, the more powerful they feel. You cannot create peace with someone who secretly needs chaos to feel important. People who are addicted to chaos often reveal themselves through repetition. Every week brings a new conflict. Every peaceful relationship eventually becomes dramatic. Every small misunderstanding grows into a personal attack. They reopen old arguments that were already settled, twist harmless words into insults, and create emergencies where patience would have solved everything. When there is no real problem, they search for one. When life becomes quiet, they become uncomfortable. Peace feels empty to them because they have built their identity around reaction, conflict, and emotional intensity. They may call it honesty, passion, or strength, but repeated disorder is not strength. It is a lack of self-control. The greatest mistake you can make is believing that one more explanation will finally calm them down. You begin carefully choosing your words, hoping that this time they will understand. You provide evidence, repeat what happened, clarify your intentions, and answer every accusation. Yet the argument continues because understanding was never the goal. They do not need a better explanation, they need your attention. Every response tells them that they can still pull you into their emotional world. Every long message proves that they still have access to your energy. Every angry reaction confirms that they can control your inner state. You must understand that arguments are not always won by speaking better. Some are won by refusing to participate. When you recognize that a conversation has become circular, disrespectful, or deliberately provocative, stop trying to rescue it. You are not required to remain present simply because someone demands an answer. You are allowed to say that the conversation is no longer productive. You are allowed to leave the room, end the call, stop replying, or return to the subject only when both people are calm. This is not avoidance. It is emotional discipline. A chaotic person may try to convince you that walking away means you have lost. They may laugh, insult you, or claim that your silence proves they were right. Let them believe whatever keeps them entertained. You do not need to win in their mind. You need to remain in control of yours. Real strength is not the ability to overpower someone with words. It is the ability to notice when your emotions are being manipulated and refuse to surrender them. Anyone can shout. Anyone can send a cruel message. Anyone can react without thinking. Remaining calm when someone is deliberately trying to disturb you requires a much higher level of power. You should also notice what happens inside you during these arguments. Your heart begins beating faster. Your thoughts become scattered. You stop listening and start preparing your next response. Hours later, the conversation is over, but your mind is still trapped inside it. You replay what they said, imagine better answers, and continue arguing with them in your head. This is how a 10-minute conflict can steal an entire day. Even when the other person has moved on, you remain emotionally connected to the moment. The argument continues because you carry it with you. This is why protecting your peace must begin before the conflict becomes intense. Learn to recognize the early signs. Notice when the other person repeatedly interrupts you, changes the subject, attacks your character, refuses to answer simple questions, or keeps moving the goal of the conversation. Notice when every answer creates another accusation. Notice when you feel that nothing you say will be accepted. These are signals that the discussion is no longer about solving anything. Once you recognize the pattern, stop feeding it. You do not need to match another person's energy. If they become louder, you do not have to become louder. If they become insulting, you do not have to become cruel. If they send 10 messages, you do not have to answer all 10. Their behavior does not decide yours. Emotional maturity means choosing your response based on your values, not their provocation. The moment you imitate their chaos, you lose the very peace you were trying to protect. Some people will tell you that you must always stand up for yourself. This is true, but standing up for yourself does not always mean arguing. Sometimes it means ending the conversation. Sometimes it means refusing to explain the same boundary again. Sometimes it means allowing consequences to speak where words have failed. You can defend your dignity without entering a shouting match. You can be firm without becoming cruel. You can say no without writing an essay. You can walk away without begging the other person to understand why. Be especially careful with people who turn every disagreement into a personal attack. Instead of discussing what happened, they attack who you are. They call you selfish, weak, ungrateful, cold, or arrogant. They bring up unrelated mistakes from years ago. They mention private things you trusted them with. They involve other people and create a larger conflict. This is not healthy communication. It is an attempt to overwhelm you until you forget the original issue and begin defending your entire character. Do not accept this invitation. Return to the issue once, and if they refuse to stay respectful, end the conversation. You must also stop trying to prove that you are the better person by tolerating endless disrespect. Patience is not permission. Calmness does not mean standing still while someone repeatedly attacks your peace. You can be composed and still have limits. You can avoid an argument and still create consequences. If someone continues speaking to you disrespectfully, reduce their access. If they repeatedly create public conflict, stop discussing private matters with them. If every conversation becomes a battle, change the relationship. Peace without boundaries is temporary. There is another dangerous form of chaos that appears disguised as concern. Some people ask questions not because they care, but because they want information they can use later. They pretend to help, then criticize every choice you make. They offer advice you never requested, become offended when you do not follow it, and create arguments about decisions that belong to you. They behave as if access to your life gives them authority over it. Do not confuse involvement with support. A supportive person can disagree without trying to dominate you. A controlling person creates conflict whenever you choose your own direction. When dealing with someone who enjoys chaos, keep your words simple. Do not over-explain. Do not answer accusations that have no connection to reality. Do not try to correct every exaggerated statement. State your position clearly, set the boundary, and step away. A calm sentence can be more powerful than a page of emotional defense. Say what needs to be said once. People who respect you will hear it. People who do not respect you will argue no matter how perfectly you speak. You may worry that ignoring the argument will make you appear weak, but weakness is not silence. Weakness is losing control of yourself because another person demanded a reaction. Weakness is allowing someone to destroy your focus with one sentence. Weakness is returning to the same argument even though you already know where it leads. Self-control is strength because it prevents others from directing your emotions. When you no longer react automatically, manipulative people lose one of their greatest weapons. This does not mean you should avoid every difficult conversation. Healthy relationships require honesty, disagreement, and accountability. The difference is that healthy people want the conversation to improve the relationship. They listen, they take responsibility, they allow you to speak. They may disagree, but they do not try to humiliate you. They search for a solution. Chaotic people search for victory, attention, and emotional control. Learn to recognize the difference. Before entering another argument, ask yourself a few honest questions. Is this person willing to listen? Has this issue already been explained? Is there a real solution available? Will this conversation improve anything, or will it only consume my energy? Am I responding because it is necessary, or because my pride cannot tolerate being misunderstood? These questions can save you from countless hours of regret. Pride often keeps arguments alive. You want the final word. You want the other person to admit that you were right. You want them to recognize how unfairly they treated you. But waiting for an unreasonable person to become reasonable can imprison you. They may never apologize. They may never understand. They may continue telling the story in a way that protects their ego. Your healing cannot depend on their honesty. Sometimes closure is the decision to stop returning to a door that only opens into the same room. Let people misunderstand your silence. Let them call it defeat. Let them create whatever version of the story helps them avoid responsibility. You know why you walked away. You know what constant arguing was costing you. You know how much better your life becomes when your attention returns to your purpose. Their opinion cannot damage your future unless you abandon your future to fight it. A peaceful life requires selective participation. You cannot respond to every accusation, enter every disagreement, or correct every person who speaks about you. There will always be noise. There will always be someone who wants a reaction. Your responsibility is not to silence the entire world. Your responsibility is to decide what deserves access to your mind. The next time someone tries to pull you into unnecessary conflict, pause before responding. Notice the pattern. Control your breathing. Ask whether your words will create clarity or simply feed another cycle. If the conversation has no respectful direction, step away. Do not confuse constant reaction with courage. Sometimes courage is leaving before anger makes you become someone you do not respect. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not have to prove your strength through conflict. You do not have to sacrifice your peace just because another person is uncomfortable with it. Let chaotic people search for someone else to perform with. Your life has more important work waiting for you. Protect your mind, protect your time, protect the version of yourself that is trying to grow. The moment you stop arguing with people who are addicted to chaos, you discover how much energy you were wasting on battles that were never meant to be won. 6. Become so focused that their noise can no longer reach you. The strongest way to ignore people who waste your time is not to sit all day trying not to think about them. It is to become so committed to your own growth that their noise no longer has room inside your mind. Many people believe ignoring someone means forcing yourself not to respond, not to check, not to react, and not to care. But real detachment begins when your life becomes more interesting than the distraction. When your goals become clear, your schedule becomes meaningful, and your future begins demanding your full attention. You stop having the energy to entertain every opinion, every insult, every unnecessary message, and every person who appears only to interrupt your progress. A distracted person is easy to control. One comment can ruin their day. One message can destroy their focus. One person's silence can make them question their worth. One piece of gossip can pull them away from everything they planned to accomplish. This happens because their attention has no strong direction. When the mind is not occupied by purpose, it becomes available to noise. It begins searching for something to analyze, something to fear, something to respond to, or someone to impress. Without a meaningful focus, even small distractions feel important. This is why focus is not only a productivity skill, it is emotional protection. A focused person does not have to prove themselves in every conversation because their energy is already invested somewhere valuable. They are learning, building, improving, creating, and moving. They know that every unnecessary reaction delays something important. They understand that attention is limited, and once it is divided among too many people, very little remains for the future they claim to want. Ask yourself how many times you have allowed someone who is doing nothing with their own life to distract you from yours. They criticize your plans, question your choices, laugh at your discipline, and make you feel strange for taking your future seriously. You stop working to explain why you are working. You pause your progress to answer someone who has no progress of their own. You allow a spectator to interrupt the person who is actually on the field. This is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. People who are not building often have plenty of time to watch those who are. They notice what you post, how you move, what you are trying, and where you are changing. They have opinions about your direction because they have not chosen one for themselves. They discuss your mistakes because examining their own would require courage. Do not let their attention become your distraction. They may be watching you, but you do not have to watch them watching you. The moment you begin focusing deeply on your own life, certain people may accuse you of changing. They are correct. You are changing from someone who was always available into someone who values their time. You are changing from someone who reacted instantly into someone who pauses before responding. You are changing from someone who needed to be understood into someone who understands their own direction. Growth always changes your relationship with distraction because the person you are becoming can no longer afford the habits that kept the old version of you stuck. Focus requires that you decide what matters before the world decides for you. If you do not choose your priorities, other people will choose them through their demands. Every call will feel urgent. Every message will seem necessary. Every problem will become yours. Your day will be controlled by whatever arrives first, rather than by what matters most. You will remain busy, but make no meaningful progress. At night, you will feel exhausted without understanding what you actually accomplished. To escape this, begin each day with direction. Know what deserves your best energy. Decide what must be completed before you become available to other people. Protect the hours when your mind is strongest. Do not give your best attention to random conversations and then offer your tired mind to your dreams. Your future should not receive the leftovers of your energy. Many people say their goals matter, but their behavior shows that every notification matters more. They interrupt their own work to check messages, watch what others are doing, and respond to people who are not going anywhere. They call this staying connected, but often it is simply a habit of being constantly distracted. Connection without control becomes dependence. You begin feeling uncomfortable when no one is contacting you. Silence feels empty. Stillness feels strange. You search for noise because focus requires you to face yourself. Deep focus can feel difficult at first because it removes the entertainment of other people's lives. You can no longer hide behind gossip, arguments, comparison, and endless discussion. You must sit with your own potential and recognize how much of it remains unused. That realization can be uncomfortable. It is easier to complain about a difficult person than to confront your lack of discipline. It is easier to analyze someone else's mistakes than to begin the work you have been delaying. It is easier to spend 3 hours discussing the future than to spend 1 hour building it. This is why some distractions are not forced upon you. You invite them because they help you avoid responsibility. You may claim that people keep wasting your time, but sometimes you continue giving them access because their drama allows you to escape the pressure of your own goals. Be honest about this. Every distraction needs a willing door. If someone repeatedly interrupts you, ask why you keep answering. If a conversation never helps you, ask why you keep entering it. If a person always leaves you drained, ask why their name still receives an immediate response. Focus begins with ownership. You cannot control every person who tries to distract you, but you can control how easily they reach you. You can silence notifications. You can delay responses. You can leave your phone in another room. You can end conversations that no longer have value. You can stop explaining why you are busy. You can create hours where no one has access to you except the work that matters. These decisions may appear small, but they change the direction of your life. You must also understand the difference between being busy and being focused. A busy person is constantly moving, replying, switching tasks, and solving minor problems. A focused person knows what creates real progress and protects time for it. Busyness makes you feel active. Focus makes you effective. You can spend an entire day doing small things and still avoid the one task that would move your life forward. This is why a strong priority can be more valuable than a long list. Choose one meaningful direction and give it your serious attention. Improve one important skill. Complete one project. Build one healthy habit. Strengthen one area of your life. Scattered energy produces weak results. Concentrated energy produces transformation. Water spread across a floor creates a mess, but water directed with force can cut through stone. Your attention works the same way. When divided among too many people and problems, it disappears without creating anything. When directed toward a worthy purpose, it can rebuild your entire life. As you become more focused, you will notice that many things you once considered important were simply loud. Loud people feel urgent. Drama feels urgent. Criticism feels urgent, but urgency and importance are not the same. Someone demanding an instant answer does not automatically deserve one. Someone becoming angry about your boundary does not make their anger your priority. Someone discussing you does not create a responsibility for you to respond. A focused person learns to ask, "Will this matter in 1 year?" That question removes power from many distractions. The insult that feels painful today may be forgotten next week. The argument that demands your attention may produce nothing except regret. The person whose opinion controls your mood may not even be part of your future. Yet the hour you waste can never be recovered. The skill you delay learning, the work you postpone, and the health you ignore can affect you for years. Choose long-term importance over short-term emotion. This does not mean becoming cold, selfish, or unavailable to everyone. It means becoming intentional. You can care about people without allowing them to interrupt every important moment. You can support friends without carrying every problem they create. You can answer messages without living inside your phone. You can be kind without being permanently accessible. Focus does not remove love from your life. It removes disorder. The people who truly respect you will understand that your time has structure. They will not expect immediate access. They will not create guilt because you are working. They will not mock the discipline required to build something meaningful. They may even protect your focus because they understand what it costs. People who become angry whenever you are unavailable may not miss you. They may miss the access they once controlled. There will also be moments when distraction arrives through your own thoughts, rather than through another person. You sit down to work, but suddenly remember an old argument. You begin imagining what someone may have said about you. You think about sending a message, checking their profile, or proving something through your next decision. This is another form of wasted time. The person may not be present, but they are still controlling your attention. When this happens, do not fight the thought with panic. Notice it, refuse to feed it, and return to your task. The goal is not to eliminate every thought. The goal is to stop following every thought. Your mind may offer distractions, but you do not have to accept them. Each time you return to what matters, you strengthen your ability to direct your own attention. Focus is built through repeated return. You may need to remove certain triggers. Stop checking accounts that disturb your peace. Stop reading comments from people who do not know you. Stop revisiting conversations that have already ended. Stop keeping emotional doors open to people you are trying to move beyond. You cannot build a focused life while constantly touching the things that pull you backward. Sometimes discipline looks like refusing to look. Comparison is another powerful thief of focus. You see someone moving faster and begin questioning your own progress. You see someone receiving attention and forget the work you were doing. You see success without seeing the years behind it, then feel frustrated with your beginning. Comparison redirects your attention from your path to someone else's result. It makes you impatient, careless, and vulnerable to distraction. Return to your own work. You do not need to move at another person's speed. You need to remain consistent with your own direction. A person who walks steadily toward the right destination will eventually pass someone who runs in circles. Progress becomes powerful when it is repeated, not when it is performed for attention. The focused life is often quiet. It may look boring from the outside. There are fewer arguments, fewer dramatic announcements, fewer attempts to impress everyone. But beneath that silence, something important is being built. Skills are improving. Confidence is becoming real. Habits are changing. The person is becoming harder to distract because their identity is no longer built around reaction. This is why you should not announce every goal. Talking can create the feeling of progress without the work of progress. You receive attention for what you plan to do, then lose the hunger to actually do it. Some people will encourage you, but others will question, mock, or discourage you before your idea has had time to grow. Protect your early effort. Build until the result becomes stronger than outside opinion. There is power in becoming unavailable while you improve yourself, not permanently and not cruelly, but deliberately. Disappear from meaningless conversations. Step away from constant entertainment. Reduce the time you spend discussing people. Give that time to reading, training, planning, creating, and resting. You may be shocked by how much of your life returns when you stop giving it away in small pieces. Your focus should also include your physical and emotional health. A tired mind is easier to distract. When you sleep poorly, eat carelessly, and never allow yourself to recover, you become more reactive. Small comments feel larger. Minor problems feel overwhelming. Discipline is harder when your body is exhausted. Protecting your focus means protecting the condition of the person who must maintain it. Rest is not wasted time when it restores your ability to think clearly. Solitude is not loneliness when it reconnects you with your direction. Silence is not emptiness when it allows your mind to settle. You do not need constant stimulation to feel alive. Sometimes the deepest progress begins when the noise finally stops. You may lose certain relationships as you become more focused. Some connections were built entirely around shared distraction. You talked because neither of you wanted to work. You complained because neither of you wanted to change. You remained close because you repeated the same habits together. When you begin choosing discipline, the relationship may feel different. This does not always mean either person is bad. It may simply mean you are no longer moving in the same direction. Do not shrink your future to preserve every old connection. People who belong in your next chapter will respect the work required to enter it. Those who constantly pull you backward are showing you the limit of the relationship. You do not need to hate them. You need to stop allowing familiarity to defeat progress. There will be days when your focus is weak. You will waste time, respond emotionally, or fall into old habits. Do not use one difficult day as permission to abandon the entire process. Return. Discipline is not perfection. It is the decision to begin again before a mistake becomes a lifestyle. The focused person is not someone who never becomes distracted. It is someone who notices sooner and returns faster. Create evidence that your life is changing. Complete small promises to yourself. Work for 30 minutes without checking your phone. Finish what you said you would finish. Wake up when you planned to wake up. Read the pages. Do the training. Send the application. Make the call that moves your life forward. Each completed action strengthens your identity. You begin seeing yourself as someone who follows through, and the opinions of distracting people become less powerful. Confidence built through action is difficult to disturb. When you know you are working, learning, and improving, you no longer need everyone to believe in you. Their doubt cannot compete with your evidence. Their laughter cannot erase your discipline. Their noise becomes weak because your life is becoming loud through results. This is the highest form of ignoring people who waste your time. You do not spend your days angry at them. You do not make your growth a performance designed to prove them wrong. You simply become unavailable to distraction because you are deeply available to your purpose. You stop checking whether they noticed. You stop waiting for them to regret losing access. You stop imagining the day they finally understand your value. Their understanding is no longer part of your plan. You build because your future deserves it. You focus because your time is limited. You improve because remaining the same has become more painful than discipline. This shift changes everything. You are no longer running away from noise. You are moving towards something greater. Eventually, the messages that once disturbed you will feel unimportant. The people who once controlled your mood will become distant memories. The arguments that once consumed entire days will no longer be able to hold your attention for 5 minutes. Not because the world became quieter, but because your purpose became stronger. Become so focused that gossip sounds irrelevant. Become so disciplined that distraction feels expensive. Become so committed to your future that people who bring nothing valuable can no longer purchase your attention with drama. Let them talk while you work. Let them watch while you grow. Let them misunderstand while you move forward. Your life does not need another reaction. It needs direction. It does not need another argument. It needs action. It does not need more noise. It needs your full attention. Give your attention to the person you are becoming, and eventually the people who once wasted your time will no longer be able to reach the mind you have built. 7. Walk away before they turn your precious time into regret. There comes a moment when ignoring someone is no longer enough. You stop replying, reduce contact, avoid arguments, and protect your peace, but the person still remains close enough to keep disturbing your life. They continue crossing boundaries, creating confusion, demanding attention, and pulling you back into the same exhausting cycle. At that point, the problem is no longer their behavior alone. The problem is your refusal to walk away from something that has already shown you what it will continue to cost. Many people remain trapped in relationships, friendships, and situations long after they understand the truth. They know the connection is draining them. They know the conversations lead nowhere. They know the same promises have been broken repeatedly. Yet they stay because walking away feels painful, uncertain, or cruel. They continue sacrificing their present because they are emotionally attached to the past. They remember who the person used to be, what the relationship once meant, or what they hoped it would eventually become. They do not realize that while they are protecting old memories, they are allowing their future to be slowly damaged. Time does not announce when it is leaving. It disappears quietly. It leaves through another unnecessary conversation, another argument that changes nothing, another night spent overthinking, and another morning ruined by emotional exhaustion. You do not wake up and immediately realize that years have been wasted. The loss happens in small pieces. One more chance becomes another month. Another apology becomes another year. Another promise to change becomes another season of your life, spent waiting for someone to become who they have repeatedly refused to be. This is why you must learn to measure a relationship by what it is producing, not by what it once promised. Ask yourself what the connection has become. Does it bring stability or confusion? Does it support your growth or punish you for changing? Does it respect your time or consume it without care? Do you feel stronger after spending time with this person, or do you need to recover from every interaction? A relationship does not have to be openly cruel to become harmful. Sometimes it simply keeps you distracted, emotionally tired, and permanently unavailable to a better life. The most dangerous relationships are often not the ones that destroy you in one dramatic moment. They are the ones that keep you slightly unhappy for a very long time. The pain is never severe enough to force an immediate decision, but it is constant enough to weaken your spirit. You become used to disappointment. You lower your expectations. You begin calling emotional exhaustion normal. You tell yourself that every relationship is difficult, every friendship has problems, and everyone deserves patience. While these statements may contain truth, they can also become excuses that protect harmful patterns. Patience should not require you to betray yourself. Loyalty should not demand that you ignore reality. Compassion should not force you to remain available to someone who continues using your kindness against you. You can understand why a person behaves badly and still decide that their behavior has no place in your life. Their pain may explain their actions, but it does not erase the damage. Their difficult past does not give them permission to create a difficult future for you. Many people fear walking away because they believe it makes them heartless. They imagine that a good person should keep trying, keep forgiving, and keep giving chances. But there is a difference between having a good heart and having no boundaries. A good heart can forgive without remaining in the same position. A good heart can wish someone well from a distance. A good heart can recognize that staying is no longer helping either person. Sometimes leaving is not an act of hatred. It is the moment you finally stop cooperating with a pattern that is destroying both of you. Walking away becomes especially difficult when the other person occasionally treats you well. They may create pain for weeks, then suddenly become kind. They may ignore your needs, then offer affection when they feel you pulling away. They may promise change with such confidence that you begin doubting everything you previously understood. These moments of kindness can make you believe the relationship is improving, but temporary relief is not transformation. One beautiful conversation cannot erase a destructive pattern. A peaceful weekend cannot prove that years of chaos have ended. Real change is not a performance that appears when someone fears losing access. It is a consistent pattern that continues even when there is no immediate threat. Watch what happens after the apology. Does the behavior actually change, or does the cycle simply restart? Do they take responsibility, or do they blame stress, circumstances, and other people? Do they respect the boundary, or do they wait until your emotions soften before crossing it again? Words can create hope, but only repeated actions deserve trust. Stop allowing beautiful language to silence the evidence of your experience. You must also examine the promises you make to yourself. How many times have you said, "This is the last time"? How many boundaries have you created and then removed the moment the person became emotional? Every time you abandon your own decision, you teach yourself that your pain is negotiable. You weaken your trust in your own judgment. Eventually, you stop believing your own limits because you know you will not enforce them. Self-trust is rebuilt when your actions support what your mind already knows. If you know a situation is harmful, act accordingly. If you say disrespect is unacceptable, stop accepting it. If you decide that another repeated betrayal will end the relationship, do not invent a new excuse when it happens. Boundaries without consequences are only requests. People who benefit from crossing them will continue until they meet a result they cannot negotiate. Walking away does not always mean cutting someone off completely. Sometimes it means ending a particular form of access. You may stop discussing personal matters with someone who turns everything into gossip. You may stop lending money to someone who repeatedly refuses responsibility. You may stop answering late-night calls from someone who remembers you only when they are lonely. You may keep the relationship polite while removing emotional closeness. Distance can take many forms. The important question is whether the level of access matches the level of respect. However, there are situations where partial distance is not enough. Some people use every open door to return to the same pattern. They interpret kindness as permission, silence as weakness, and forgiveness as an invitation. They may respect your boundary for a short time, then begin testing it again. They send casual messages, create emergencies, use shared memories, or involve other people to reach you. They are not returning because they have changed. They are checking whether your limit still exists. You must be prepared for this. The hardest part of walking away is often not the first decision. It is maintaining that decision when loneliness, guilt, nostalgia, or pressure begins speaking. You may miss the person even though the relationship was harmful. You may remember the laughter and temporarily forget the pain. You may question whether you were too strict. This does not mean leaving was wrong. It means attachment takes time to release. Missing someone is not proof that they belong in your life. It is proof that they occupied space in it. Your mind becomes familiar with patterns, even painful ones. When the pattern disappears, the silence can feel uncomfortable. You may confuse unfamiliar peace with emptiness. You may return to chaos because chaos feels known. Give yourself time to adjust. Do not run back to what hurt you simply because healing feels strange. There will also be people who try to make you feel guilty for leaving. They may remind you of everything they once did for you. They may say you have changed, become cold, or forgotten your history. They may present themselves as abandoned while ignoring the repeated behavior that pushed you away. Do not allow guilt to erase the complete story. Gratitude does not require permanent access. Someone can have helped you in the past and still become unhealthy for your present. You can appreciate what was good without continuing what has become destructive. Some people will accuse you of giving up too easily, even though they did not witness the private chances you already gave. They did not see the conversations, the sleepless nights, the broken promises, or the emotional energy you spent trying to repair the relationship. You do not need to prove the full history to everyone. People often judge the final decision without understanding the long process that created it. Let them judge. Your peace cannot depend on the approval of people who know only a small part of the truth. Walking away also requires accepting that you may never receive the apology you deserve. The person may never admit what they did. They may tell others a story that makes you appear responsible. They may move forward quickly and act as if the relationship meant nothing. This can feel deeply unfair, but waiting for their honesty can keep you emotionally connected long after you have physically left. Closure is not always given by the person who caused the pain. Sometimes closure is the moment you decide that the evidence you already have is enough. You know how the relationship affected you. You know how many times you tried. You know what staying was turning you into. That knowledge is enough to move forward. You do not need their agreement to validate your experience. A person does not have to confess that they harmed you before you are allowed to protect yourself. One reason people delay leaving is the fear that they will regret the decision. They imagine the other person changing after they leave. They fear losing the possibility of what the relationship could have become. But you must also consider the regret of staying. Imagine giving another 5 years to the same pattern. Imagine losing more opportunities, more peace, more confidence, and more time. Imagine looking back and realizing you saw the truth clearly, but refused to act. The regret of leaving often fades as you heal. The regret of staying too long can remain because you know the warning signs were present. Protect yourself from that future pain. You do not need complete certainty before making a healthy decision. Sometimes clarity is simply recognizing that the cost of remaining has become greater than the fear of leaving. Walking away is not failure. Failure is abandoning yourself to preserve something that repeatedly destroys you. Failure is seeing the pattern and continuing to call it potential. Failure is spending your whole life waiting for someone else to make a decision that only you can make. Leaving can be an act of victory because it proves you finally believe your life deserves better. You must also walk away from conversations that have already reached their conclusion. Not every ending requires another meeting, another explanation, or another emotional exchange. Sometimes you have already said everything necessary. Repeating the conversation will not produce a new truth. It will only reopen the same wound. There is a temptation to seek one final conversation because you want to leave feeling understood. You imagine that if you explain yourself perfectly, the other person will finally recognize your pain and respect your decision. But people who ignored your feelings during the relationship may not suddenly honor them at the end. The final conversation can become another opportunity for manipulation, blame, promises, or confusion. Be careful not to call something closure when it is really another attempt to receive validation from the person who withheld it. You are allowed to leave quietly when words have already failed. Silence can be a complete decision. Distance can be a complete answer. The absence of another explanation does not make your boundary unclear. People often claim they do not understand when the truth is that they do not accept the consequence. Walking away also means releasing the desire to monitor what happens next. Do not leave someone and then spend every day checking whether they miss you. Do not build distance while remaining emotionally present through social media, mutual friends, and imagined conversations. Physical distance without mental distance will keep the relationship alive inside you. Stop checking whether they have changed for someone else. Stop wondering whether they regret losing you. Stop measuring your worth by how quickly they replace you or whether they return. Their next decision does not define the value of yours. You walked away to recover your life, not to force a reaction from them. If your departure is only a strategy to make them chase you, you have not truly left. You are still placing your peace inside their response. Real walking away means accepting that they may never return, never apologize, and never understand. It means choosing yourself even when there is no dramatic ending and no proof that they finally recognized your value. This is where dignity becomes important. Dignity is not about appearing strong. It is about refusing to repeatedly enter places where your self-respect is damaged. It is the decision to stop begging for basic consideration, honest communication, and consistent effort. These things should not need to be requested endlessly. You should never have to convince someone to treat your time as valuable. You should never have to prove that your feelings deserve respect. You should never have to compete for a place in the life of someone who enjoys keeping you uncertain. When a relationship requires constant chasing, explaining, and proving, it is already showing you that the balance is broken. Walking away restores balance because it returns your energy to you. The hours once spent arguing can become hours of learning. The attention once trapped inside confusion can return to your goals. The emotional strength once used to survive the relationship can be used to rebuild your confidence. Leaving is not only about removing a person, it is about recovering the parts of yourself that disappeared while trying to keep them. At first, this recovery may feel slow. You may expect immediate relief, but experience sadness instead. This is normal. A healthy decision can still hurt. Pain does not always mean you made the wrong choice. Sometimes pain is the cost of releasing what you were deeply attached to. Do not mistake grief for regret. Grief says, "This mattered to me." Regret says, "I should not have left." These are not the same. You can miss what was good and still recognize that the complete relationship was no longer healthy. You can mourn the dream without returning to the reality that destroyed it. Give yourself permission to grieve without reopening the door. Write what you feel. Speak to someone trustworthy. Sit with the silence. Rebuild your routines. Return to the parts of your life you neglected. Healing requires direction. When you remove a powerful distraction, you must replace the empty space with something meaningful. Return to your health. Return to your work. Return to the goals you kept postponing. Return to the people who consistently showed you respect. Return to yourself. This is how walking away becomes more than an ending. It becomes a new beginning. You may discover that you no longer recognize who you are without the conflict. For a long time, your identity may have been built around solving problems, calming the other person, defending yourself, or waiting for change. When that role disappears, you must learn to live without constant emotional responsibility. This can feel unfamiliar, but it is also freedom. You are not responsible for managing every person's feelings about your boundary. You are responsible for choosing a life you can respect. Let adults face the consequences of how they treat people. When you repeatedly rescue someone from the result of their behavior, you protect the pattern that harms you. Distance can teach what endless explanations could not. There will come a time when you look back and realize how much energy the situation consumed. You will notice that your mind is quieter. You sleep better. You stop fearing the next message. You become more productive. Your confidence slowly returns. The life that once felt impossible begins becoming available because you are no longer giving your attention to something determined to keep you stuck. This is when you understand that walking away was not the loss you feared. Staying was the greater loss. Staying was costing you your peace, your focus, and your future. Leaving simply stopped the payment. Never wait until every beautiful memory has become painful before you leave. Never wait until your self-respect is completely destroyed. Never wait until you no longer recognize yourself. You do not need a final disaster to justify a decision. Repeated disrespect is enough. Constant confusion is enough. Emotional exhaustion is enough. A pattern that refuses to change is enough. The strongest decisions are often made before complete destruction. Wisdom does not wait for the bridge to collapse before choosing another path. It notices the cracks and acts while there is still something worth saving. What you are saving is not the relationship. You are saving your time. You are saving the future version of yourself from years of regret. You are saving your ability to trust your own judgment. You are saving the peace required to build a meaningful life. Your time is not endless. Every year you spend in the wrong place is a year you cannot give to the right one. Every hour used to manage unnecessary chaos is an hour removed from your purpose. Every repeated chance given without evidence of change becomes another delay in your own growth. Do not be afraid of being alone for a season. Temporary loneliness is often safer than permanent emotional exhaustion. Solitude can heal you, teach you, and prepare you for healthier connections. The wrong company can make you feel lonely while standing beside someone. Peaceful solitude can remind you that your own presence is not something to fear. You may eventually meet people who respect the boundaries others mocked. You may build relationships that do not require constant recovery. You may experience conversations where disagreement does not become disrespect. When this happens, you will understand how much chaos you once accepted simply because it was familiar. But even if no new person arrives immediately, your life is still worthy of protection. Do not make your decision dependent on replacement. Walk away because the situation is harmful, not because another option is waiting. Your dignity should not require a backup plan. Some people are chapters, not the entire story. They may teach you what to avoid, what to value, and what you must never accept again. The lesson is wasted only when you continue repeating it. Honor what the experience taught you by refusing to recreate it. Walk away before another month becomes another year. Walk away before your dreams begin feeling impossible, because all your energy is spent surviving people. Walk away before you become bitter, cold, and unable to recognize healthy love. Walk away before the time you sacrificed becomes the deepest regret of your life. You do not need to leave with hatred. Leave with understanding. Understand that some people cannot go where you are trying to go. Understand that not every connection is meant to last. Understand that protecting your future may require disappointing someone who expected permanent access. Close the door calmly. Do not stand behind it waiting for another knock. Do not keep reopening it to see whether the same person has become different overnight. Move forward. Let the silence create space. Let distance return your clarity. Let time show you what constant confusion prevented you from seeing. One day, you may thank yourself for the decision that once broke your heart. You will realize that walking away gave you back your life. The peace you feared losing was waiting on the other side of the boundary. The strength you kept searching for appeared when you finally stopped returning. Your time is precious because your life is made of it. Do not give endless pieces of that life to people who repeatedly prove they do not value them. Do not allow another person's chaos to become your history. Do not let temporary attachment create permanent regret. Know when the lesson is complete. Know when another chance is only another delay. Know when staying has stopped being love and started becoming self-abandonment. Then walk away, not because you hate them, not because nothing good ever existed. Walk away because your future deserves the time your past keeps stealing.